Hey guys, how are you? Well, I'm back, but I'm not back with the book that I wanted to do. I'm still waiting for it. I had to order it 3 times. But I couldn't let everyone go through a second round of videos without turning up. So I'm doing a video that I had planned to do after. Hopefully, this book will turn up very, very soon. I've had 2 refunds and 2 lost books. I'm starting to feel like Lady Bracknell says, to lose 1 package is unfortunate, to lose 2 is starting to look like carelessness. So it means that I'm going to do the thing that I didn't want to do, which is 2 videos really close to each other, but, you know, it appears that is what the universe wants, man. So anyway, this week I wanted to talk about exactly how we approach books, because we've been doing this for nearly 4 years now, and based on how people are watching the videos, I think it's probably a good idea to actually explain what we're doing, because we weren't really certain about what we were doing when we started, and now it's sort of solidified. And so we're going to talk about that. Also, some of my pet peeves that you see on BookTube. Just things that drive me a bit crazy. So we're going to talk about that. But in the meantime, before that, remember, there is our shop. There are books. There are writing services. There is our Redbubble shop where there is like over 100 designs. Really gorgeous. And remember, just like, subscribe, share, comment, all really helpful, all free. You know, we just love that people come and watch our videos. So, what are we talking about today? Today, we're talking about what these videos sort of are and my approach to a text. Because I say my approach because do you know how many of the characters I do the research for? Yeah, and they all call me stupid. I'm not stupid. I'm the one with the master's degree. You think Her Infernal Majesty can do research? No. No, she can't. Do you think Her Ladyship has a degree? No. No, they didn't let women have them then. Otterline? No. Laura, I think, does her own thing. Hatter did their own thing. But I hold people up here. I'm the one who has that. But anyway, so these aren't essays. That's the first thing. None of these are scripted. These are not essays. I do not do book essays. None of us do essays. I hope if people have been looking at these long enough, you will have worked out these are not essays. These are long rambling raves with like educated raves, but they're not essays, which is why we don't classify these as under education. We classify these under entertainment. Okay, that's the first thing. Second thing, these are not study aids either. I've seen people have actually, I've realized based on looking at analytics that people are using some of these as study aids, and I sort of think, oh, God help you, because I wouldn't use these as my study aids necessarily all the time for if I were doing an exam. These are not made to be study aids. I have had comments saying, can't you just get to the point or just tell us the themes? That's not what we're doing. I'm talking about books. We're all talking about books, like to share books, not as direct study aid. Okay? So there's that. If you want to use them as a study aid, that's fine, but be aware, these are not essays. They're not cited. They are a personal reflection on these books, on these texts, because they're not all just books. Okay, so that's another really important thing to keep in mind. Now, there are a couple of things that I see people doing on here, talking about books, that really, really irritate me. I want to talk about why they irritate me. One is the use of specific terms as general genre terms, especially things that are academic terms or literary terms. So one that I have noticed that gets used quite a bit is magical realism as a synonym for styles of fantasy. Magical realism is not a style of fantasy. It is not a genre thing. It is a literary theory. It is a literary novel, literary work device. It is not an example of a fantasy novel in the real world where fantasy things happen. That is called urban fantasy. That is called contemporary fantasy. It is not called magical realism. Please stop using that term. Okay? Don't come at me. It is not it. What it does is it starts to debase the term. Calling a fork a spoon doesn't make it a spoon, but it does sort of start to degrade the concept of spoon. Okay? So it has an impact when people just throw these things around willy-nilly. That irritates me. We are actually going to be having a proper look at magical realism, but partly because it's getting debased in this manner, but also partly because it's about time we start having a look at the South Americans. It's been 4 years. I want to have a look at the South Americans this year. Okay. Second thing, I hate close readings of texts. That's not what I do here. Not what any of us do here. I'm going to explain why I hate close readings of texts. I do not have a Leavisite relationship to texts. That's what a close reading of a text is. And I find that a lot of the content that people use is doing close reading of genre fiction. Now, a close reading of a text is where you look only at what is in the text. It is a style of analysis that was popularized by F.R. Leavis in the 20th century. It's an old-fashioned style. It is is very highly linked to the modernist school of writing, and it's not applicable for huge numbers of texts. Okay? What I see is a lot of people taking genre fiction and doing close reading, close analysis, and looking for things that are in that and to make it weightier. It's like, honey, it's genre fiction. It doesn't need to be weighty. Just enjoy it. Just enjoy it. No, I'm not having a judgment about you reading genre fiction. Enjoy it. Talk about what you enjoyed about the book. You don't have to sound clever. You don't have to justify your student debt by taking your big university degree and applying it to a genre fiction. Just like what you like, honey. Okay? That I find incredibly irritating. You don't need to do that. But it will work. A closed text like that, it will work. And by a closed text, I mean a text that is not consciously referring outside of itself. So genre fiction generally is a closed text. It's a narrative that is closed. And yeah, you can look at symbolism, you can look at metaphor, you can look at allegory. The Tolkien people will have a go at you if you call their precious thing allegory. That's why we're not touching it, because I could tear that to pieces. But I'm not going to, because I don't want the hassle. Okay? It's a closed text. It doesn't refer to anything outside itself, even if it clearly has influences and it's not nearly as unique as you think it is. But that's beyond the point. We're not going to talk about that, because I don't want a million billion people in my comments screaming at me about something that I really don't care about and that I didn't show it due reverence. I don't show anything reverence. Have you seen some of the things I say? I don't show anything reverence. But I have a problem with close reading of text because it's not sufficient for a great many texts. Is very, very good for junior high school. And by junior high school, I mean stages 4 and 5 in Australia. What you would call middle school in the US. But junior high school, when children are starting to look at texts, study them, and they're frankly fairly flimsy texts because of the reading ability of the children. So you're not wanting to, you're trying to build their skills, you're trying to get them to recognize textual features, you're trying to get to them to recognize that stories have structures and that they're a constructed thing and that they have themes. And that's great. It's wonderful to use it for that. You know what it doesn't work for? When you're in your final year with your big exams and one of your books is a post-colonial novel and your teacher is a strict Leavisite. We all almost failed that because post-colonial novels need a contextual understanding. They are not closed texts. They come from a context, and if you don't understand the context, guess what? You don't understand the story. You start reading the story out with the wrong frame of reference. That is really, really where that whole concept of, oh, I'll read this in a little box in which nothing else exists, falls apart. I hate that. I am like, no, I am not reading a text in that way. Not a chance. No way. So, what do? I am more the death of the author. Now, this is the second concept that has been debased, and it's been debased on people talking about books thanks to Harry Potter. I already don't like Harry Potter because Harry Potter was hit big when I went to university, and then I'm at university and everyone's reading this stupid children's book. And I'm like, it's a stupid children's book. We're at university. Why are you reading something for 12-year-olds? Oh, but it's so great. I don't care. Oh, it's so deep. No, it's not. It's a children's book. See, unpopular opinions, I do those. But I hate that thing. Now, Harry Potter gets the death of the author treatment because, turns out, people don't like the politics of the author. Fair enough, you don't have to like the politics of the author. So what they have decided is that they will just ignore the author exists and pretend it's a closed text and keep doing their own little thing. Okay, but that's not death of the author. That's a misunderstanding of Roland Barthes' premise. I just reread Death of the Author. So, I like Death of the Author as a way of understanding text. Not because I'm going to entirely excise the author from the construction, which is essentially what the Harry Potter weenies are doing is attempting to just excise the author. But I know from being a experienced reader and having read some texts multiple times, I'm thinking here very much of Wise Children, which I did. The first time I read that, guess who I had never encountered before? Falstaff. Guess who I'd met after I read it for the second time? Falstaff. And that changed the way that I read that text. Oh, it also aged. That changed the way that I read that text. Okay, that is where death of the author comes in, is the author cannot control for these things. The author is not the center of meaning. That the meaning is in the dialogue between text and reader. That once you have the death of the author, you have the birth of the reader. The reader is the locus of meaning. And that is why no two texts are read the same. Even read by the same person, because you're not the same person. It is a brilliant way of looking at things. Okay, so I find that a very interesting way of approaching a text is, am I going to look at the author as this is what that meant, which is what a closed text, close reading does, is attempting to get as close to the author as humanly possible. It might be interesting to do once for like a historically informed performance of Vivaldi, but do I want to hear other conductors perform the work and bring their own interpretation? Yes. Do I want to do that with theatre? Yes. In fact, do I want to do that with a book? Yes. In fact, one of the things that really reinforces the fact that the author, as Barthes puts it, is dead, is Beckett. Beckett moved from novel writing to theatre because he felt that there was too much ambiguity of meaning in a novel, and it was too hard to control the message of the that is directed to the reader through a novel compared to theatre, where everything he felt could be much more controlled. So Her Infernal Majesty talked about waiting for Godot. Is Her Infernal Majesty's interpretation of Godot the only one? No. Is it hers? Yes. Was that interesting to try and work out how she would interpret that? Yes. So it is a matter of, that is how I approach a text. The other way that I approach a text, so my context creates meaning. My context determines whether that sign, that thing, has a signifier. So when I read Wise Children the first time, all the things, think of them like links on a web page. All the links on the web page that were linking to Falstaff were like dead links for me because I did not have the knowledge of Falstaff. When I read it again, those things linked. Oh, those links work. They work because I had the links. I had the place where it led to. I knew where it led. I could see that. And that's another thing about closed texts, is they are like a web page with dead links on, because often they will refer to things, but you don't need to know the thing to understand the text. And the thing itself doesn't necessarily add a great deal to your understanding of the text. So I find that that is a big difference between genre fiction and literary fiction. Is genre fiction is fiction full of dead links. Literary fiction, you gain increased meaning by understanding what the links are. So that's a little idea for you to think about. I also look at a text and think about, what lens will I bring to this? How will I interpret this text? What context do I need? So for instance, Alexander Pope, context is everything. If you don't have the context for Alexander Pope, he doesn't work. It's like, okay, they're pretty words, but you need to understand, because he's a satirist. What is he satirizing? Satire is very specific. It requires context. I will look at what is a lens that I might use. You know, lenses are very, very interesting things to use. If you don't apply, you can apply multiple different lenses, and each lens is like a kaleidoscope. It will shift the image that you see. So I can apply a feminist lens to something to read it in a particular way. I can apply a Marxist lens to read it in a different way. I can apply a nationalist lens and read it in a third different way. All the same text, but I will get multiple meanings from whichever lens I choose to apply. So that, I hope, helps you understand what I'm doing and how I approach books. Because I'm not analyzing them. I'm saying, here is how I responded to this. Okay? And I think it's an important thing to keep in mind, because I'm not going to be held responsible if you failed your exams because you used me as exam study instead of doing your homework. Okay, guys? Good. So I will see you again sometime later, hopefully soon. Hopefully that book turns up. Seriously, twice. Not happy. I'll probably end up with 3 of them by the end of it. They'll turn up as Strange Time, but anyway. Peace and love, guys. Peace and love, and I'll talk to you again later. Peace. If you would like to support this channel, come across to the Black Cockie Press website, www.blackcockiepress.com.au, where you will find books and other writing services to help with your writing.